Welcome to my channel. My name is Ria and today we are going to talk about the new moon happening on 25th or 26th of September. The date can vary depending on your location. So we are going to talk about that new moon. Now for this video, I will talk about what the horoscope is, what the analysis is based on Western astrology, the tropical zodiac, and then I will mention very briefly where this is in sidereel in Vedic. So we'll do it that way today, and towards the end of the video I will mention very briefly where this new moon will be for your particular sun rising sign, and these placements will be based on your tropical zodiac, Western astrology. So let's get started. Now, a new moon is when the sun and the moon are together. You can see this on the chart. The sun and the moon are together, and this happens about once a month, give or take. And this starts a new lunar cycle. So a new moon generally represents new beginnings. It represents seeding points of something. It represents the planting of something that we work on for the next lunar month, next 28 days or so. Right, that's what a new moon is. And this new moon in Western astrology is happening in the sign of Libra. Now, Libra is the sign that's associated with relationships, right? It's the sign associated with marriage. It's the sign of legal relationships, right? It includes business partners, it includes mother-in-law, father-in-law, your spouse, anything that's very legal, right? A legal relationship, that's Libra. So with a new moon in this sign, there's a lot of focus on relationships, right? Maybe this is the seeding of an energy associated with maybe relationships in our lives, right? So that's one representation of Libra. The other is that Libra is the scales, right? And it's associated with trying to find balance. So this new energy, this seeding of the energy can also maybe start something that helps us find balance in our life, right? Helps us balance something out, whether that's work-life balance or any other sort of balance. So two important things with this one: relationships, especially the legal kind, and finding balance, balancing something in our lives. So that's the basic energy because it's a new moon, it's in Libra. And now I am going to talk about the aspects that are going on because the aspects kind of color the energy of the new moon. So let's talk about what's happening. The first and the most important aspect, according to me, is that this moon is in a direct opposition with Jupiter, right? This is Jupiter. That's Jupiter. And it's opposing it, making a 180 degree angle with Jupiter. And Jupiter is the planet of lessons and blessings, and it has this tendency to magnify anything it comes in contact with, right? And Jupiter right now is retrograde. It is sitting in the sign of Aries. Let me show you. That's Aries, right? Jupiter is in Aries right now. And what this can mean is that, first of all, this new energy of the moon, right, the seeding energy is extremely potent. It's extremely magnified. It's extremely big. So it's not an ordinary new moon energy. It's an extremely magnified new moon energy. And this could mean an extremely magnified new beginning, extremely magnified seeding of an energy, extremely magnified planting of an energy, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that with usually an opposition like this, a 180 degree angle is considered challenging, right, in astrology. It requires us to integrate two sides, right, because an opposition is this and this, right? They're opposing each other. So it requires us to integrate these two opposing energies. So in some ways, what this can also mean is that we need to integrate Libra with Aries, and Jupiter is there as well. So what this can mean is that we need to maybe try to find balance between our relationships and our individuality. So Aries is associated with independence, individuality, right? Making things happen. So it's a very independent energy, whereas Libra is a very relationship oriented energy. So this opposition, what this can bring out, apart from the magnification of the new energy that's coming in, is this question of which relationships make us feel independent, right? Which relationships support our individuality? Those could be the underlying questions when it comes to relationships with this new moon. It can also be this energy that helps us find balance between maybe relationships and our own identity, how to balance it out, right? So it's that sort of energy that will maybe ask us to see, okay, is this relationship supporting my true individuality or not? Or, am I being too independent and not really accepting or integrating this relationship in my life? So it's that sort of energy. And usually new moons don't have that contradictory energy, because new moons are when the sun and the moon are together, right? Typically full moons, when the sun and the moon oppose, that brings this kind of contradiction. But since Jupiter here is opposing the moon, we might feel that contradictory element of, finding balance between our own independence, identity, and relationships that we are in. So that's the first aspect I wanted to touch upon, an important aspect. And since Jupiter is retrograde, right, this question, this trying to find balance, may not be related to maybe something absolutely new. It could be an old relationship dynamic. It could be something from the past, a past relationship coming back up, or a past relationship issue coming back up, needing to be looked at in a way where we find a better balance. So a lot of focus on relationships this time around, and with Jupiter aspecting the moon almost exact, it's a 1 degree difference. It's a very big energy. It's a very magnified energy. Now, one thing I do want to mention before we move on is that Libra is a very diplomatic sort of energy, right? It's diplomatic, and it's not very impulsive. Aries is impulsive. So what I feel we need to do is that approach everything from a diplomatic approach, not get very impulsive on this moon, because Jupiter is in Aries, a very impulsive sign. So just a brief mention. I just wanted to mention that. Now I'm going to talk about a few more aspects that are going on, and let's get into those. The first thing that stands out to me is that Mars here is trining Saturn almost. It's going to come exact in the coming week, but it's very close. And Mars is the planet of taking action. It's the planet of making things happen, right? Mars is associated with the sign of Aries. It's related to the masculine in the zodiac, right? Mars, it's the warrior, it's the soldier, it's the go-getting energy. So that's Mars. And Saturn here rules the sign of Capricorn, right? And Saturn is this energy that, one, likes to restrict and control, but two, it also likes to structure things, right? It likes to give structure to things. It likes to work hard. It likes discipline and dedication, and it puts things in order. And a trine is a positive aspect. So what this could mean is that we have a lot of energy to take structured action, right? And let me backtrack a little bit and explain a bit better, put things in context. So Mars here, right, it conjuncted Saturn back in April, right? And when they meet up like this, there's this energy of wanting to move ahead, but being held back, right? Wanting to go full force into something, but feeling like there are restrictions, there's something that's limiting me. And then what happened a few months ago is that Mars was here in Taurus and it squared Saturn. Again, that energy of wanting to move forward but being held back. But now it's a positive aspect. So what this means is that perhaps whatever was holding us back, right, is not holding us back in that sense anymore, right? So this is that energy where we are supported to take that action. There's no restriction. And Saturn can bring restrictions, but this is a positive aspect. So it's more like, this energy to structure things, to work hard in a disciplined way, to take action in a disciplined way. That's also there with us on this moon. But I do want to mention that Mars here is going to go retrograde at the end of the year, starting October end, right? And Mars is already in the area that it's going to retrograde over. And what that means is that whatever action we are taking now, right, this is the first try, you can say. I don't want to say try, but I can't find a better word. It's the first time. Yeah, it's the first time. And then what's going to happen is Mars is going to go back, and then it's going to go forward again, October, and then into early next year. And what this can bring is that we'll need to review the actions that we're taking, the steps that we're taking in a structured way right now in the coming weeks. Whatever we'll do, we'll need to review those. We'll need to fine-tune those in the future, right? But this is the beginning of that structured action. So that's an important element that we will see in the coming few weeks, and especially next week when Mars trine Saturn gets exact. And the next important thing that I want to talk about is the fact that, okay, hang on, let me clean up the chart, is the fact that Venus here and Mercury are in a trine with Pluto and they're conjunct, right? That's Venus, that's Mercury. They are trining Pluto. Pluto is here, positive aspect, and they are together. And if you look at this, right, we have the sun and the moon really close to Mercury, right? And Mercury right now is retrograde. It's retrograde. You can see everything is in black font. Mercury is in red font. It's retrograde. And Mercury retrogrades, generally speaking, are not the best time to start something absolutely new. Communication can slow down. Communication can feel slow, and gadgets can malfunction as well. So we have that energy, and we're in the process of reviewing certain things. Actually, right now, we're in the process of reviewing a lot of things, and that's simply because a lot of planets are retrograde, right? Neptune, Saturn, Pluto, Uranus, Chiron, and Mercury. And Mars is over the area where it will retrograde. So what I'm trying to say is, coming back to this, actually, not what I'm trying to say, coming back to this aspect with Pluto, right? Pluto is the planet of transformation. What it does is it brings complete transformation from the inside out. It's associated with endings. It's associated with beginnings as well, because with every ending, there is usually a beginning. And Venus is the planet of our relationships. Venus rules the sign of Libra, where we have the new moon, right? And Venus is not just relationships, it's also our finances, it's also how we look, right? So Venus here is trining Pluto. Transformation to something in our relationships, transformation to something in our finances or appearances might be possible with this energy. Now, Mercury retrograde is sitting right next to Venus. And what this can mean to me is that we might have these realizations, or we might have these epiphanies, right? Mercury retrograde, or we might even communicate. But most likely it's going to be epiphanies and realizations that can help us maybe transform or end or begin something connected to Venus, connected to relationships, our finances, our appearances. right? So we have that, a lot of transformative energy when it comes to relationships and even our projects and finances and appearances. So that's another thing I wanted to mention. I will tie this all together once I'm done speaking about the important aspects. And I'm almost done with the Western astrology aspect of this moon. So to sum it up, I would say that there's an extreme focus on relationships, right? Extreme focus. And there can be this need or this energy that makes us balance out our relationships with our individuality, or make us ask the question, which relationships support my individuality, or make us ask the question, am I being too independent and not giving this relationship enough time or enough consideration, things like that. So this push and pull between being in a relationship and being independent is extremely highlighted. This can be a very transformative energy when it comes to relationship, with the Venus Pluto trine and with Mercury there, Mercury retrograde. We might find this transformation or this ending or beginning comes after a realization or an epiphany or something like that. At the same time, the astrology does say that since Mars is trining Saturn, a lot of energy supporting structured action, perhaps something you've been thinking about back in April that didn't fully happen with the intensity that you wanted to happen, or you felt held back. That might be possible a bit more now, but since Mars is going to retrograde, these steps we take, the action we take now is going to come up for review again. We are going to be fine-tuning these steps, the action that we're taking over the course of the next few months. And one more thing I did not mention, but I did want to, is the Saturn Uranus square. I have covered this in detail in my last two videos, so I'll just mention it real quick. This is Uranus and this is Saturn, right? You can see Saturn's at 19 and Uranus is at 18, and they are making a 90-degree angle. And to put things in context, this doesn't happen very often, right? The last time this happened was about over 20 years ago. So after 20 years, we are feeling this energy. And what is this energy? Saturn is, like I said, the planet that restricts and controls, right? But that's one manifestation of Saturn. Saturn is also the planet that likes order and structure. And Saturn here is associated with the structures that we've already built. It's the traditional, it's the old in a way. And Uranus here is the energy of breaking free, is the energy of change, is the energy of stepping into the unknown in a way, right? So it likes to break free, while Saturn likes to hold back and go with the built structures. So this square, right, this aspect, this configuration has been with us since 2021. It eased off in the beginning of 2022, not beginning, mid 2022 a little bit, but now it's very intense. Again, it's very intense because Saturn's at 19, Uranus is at 18. And what this can bring is this, again, push and pull energy of wanting to step into the future, but being held back by the past, right? Wanting to break free, but the pull of the past is so strong that we're not able to maybe break free completely. However, that being said, on 31st July, Uranus and the North Node, also known as Rahu, they met up, right? They met up after 15 years, and when they meet up, they bring immense change. They're this supercharged energy of breaking free from something. So since 31st July, a lot of changes have been taking place. A lot of energy is there of breaking free from the past structures, right? So we have that. And since July 31st, the moons we've had, there was a full moon in Aquarius, I believe on August 12th, followed by a new moon in Virgo on August 26th, 27th, something like that, and then a full moon in Pisces on 10th September, right? So the moons that happened in the month of August, especially the 12th August one, was this major decision point, right? It felt like a pressure of kind of stepping into the new, and the new moon in Virgo was about taking action to be able to step into the new, which happened, I believe, on 27th August. And the full moon in Pisces, right, which happened on 10th September, was about integrating these changes and making them a part of our life in a subtle way. Of course, I'm just giving you the entire video's analysis in few sentences. So if you want to know more about those moons, those are already on my channel. You can watch those. But since then, what we've been trying to do is decide, change, take action to kind of adjust to this new energy that started on 31st July. And going back a little bit more to the eclipses that happened in the month of April and May, right? Those eclipses, especially the full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio, was this point of letting go of something completely old. But there was a lot of confusion back then. And then in July, it was more like the new is showing up, but there's still a certain degree of uncertainty. And with the full moon on 10th September, right, that uncertainty was still there. So what I'm trying to say is that whatever was ending back in April and May, it kind of slowly started to close out, and with July 31st, with this new energy, the new started to show up more and more. And all of August we worked on deciding and adapting, which was a little stressful for us. But now I feel like with the full moon in Pisces, we've adapted. However, we're still unsure, right? What is this new energy? Where are we headed? It's still not clear, right? We've kind of done the work, but it's not visible, it's not tangible. And that's that. And I'm bringing up the Saturn Uranus square because right now it can feel there's a lot of restriction, but it can feel like the pull of the past is really strong, but the pull of the future is also stronger than it was at the beginning of the year. Let's just put it that way, or last year. So we are still doing this push and pull of the past into the future. However, I feel it's more about stepping into the future now than the past. And coming back to the full moon lunar eclipse, that was in the nakshatra of Vishaka, right? A split, two paths splitting, right? So since then we've been in that split, right? Trying to figure out this way, that way. And what is interesting is that Ketu right here, the south node, right? It's not going to change signs in tropical, in Western, but in Vedic astrology, it is going to change its nakshatra very soon. It has been in the nakshatra of Vishaka, which is the split in the road, but now it's going to shift into Swati, right, which is about finding our independence. And why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because I believe since for a few months we've been in this split, but now the split is coming to a close. We've kind of made those choices, we've kind of let go of the past, we've kind of stepped into the future, and now this split path is kind of closing because we've kind of decided this is it or this is it. And when Ketu changes into the other nakshatra from Vishaka into Swati, it will become about finding our independence, finding our power in the choice that we have made. So I just thought that's something interesting. And now I will mention real quick where this is happening in Vedic astrology, and then we will wind it up, right? So in Vedic astrology, this moon is in the sign of Virgo, right? It's in the sign of Virgo. In Western, it's in Libra. In Vedic, it's in Virgo. One of the differences between Western and Vedic is that energies are a little behind in Vedic, 24 degrees behind depending on the system you use. So that puts it at about 8 degrees of Virgo, right? And it falls in the nakshatra of Uttar Falguni, right? And nakshatras are smaller divisions of a sign. They're also known as lunar mansions. So in many ways, they have their own energy, own representation, own everything. It's like a mini sign, you can say. And Uttar Falguni is a nakshatra that is associated with getting back to work, right? Uttar Falguni in Vedic astrology spans from Leo to Virgo, and the two nakshatras before this, Magha and Purva Falguni, are associated. Magha is associated with, a kingdom, being the ruler of a kingdom. This could be a spiritual kingdom as well. And Purva Falguni is associated with intense creativity as well as enjoying the fruits of your kingdom. But Uttar Falguni is associated with getting back to work. So it's this energy of being very realistic, being very practical, being very organized, being very planned, and getting back to work, which is very similar to the Mars Saturn trine that's going on in Western astrology. Now, another interesting thing is that in Vedic astrology, this nakshatra is also associated with committed relationships, with marriage, with contracts, right? Very similar to Libra, right? Libra is associated with legal issues, which are what? Contracts. It's associated with marriage, it's associated with legal relationships. So, again, a lot of similarity this time around as well. So, with the Vedic analysis, right, there's a lot of energy about getting back to work. So taking that action, right, taking those steps in a structured way, in a planned way, in an organized way is important. And so is the focus on relationships, especially committed relationships, right? It could be this energy of maybe asking us, are we willing to commit to this relationship? Or are we in a place where we want to be completely independent, Aries? So I find it very interesting to look at both and see how they align. And to me, they align pretty well because it's the similar kind of analysis: relationships, committed relationships, contracts, legal issues, and taking structured, planned, organized action. So that's that. And now I will mention where this moon might be for your particular sun rising sign. And for this section, I will focus on the tropical zodiac, on Western astrology, and I would recommend watching your rising sign first and then your sun sign. If you don't know your rising sign, there are a lot of calculators, free calculators on the internet. You can just plug in your numbers and it will tell you your rising sign. You will need your place of birth, date of birth, and time of birth. Time of birth is extremely important for the rising sign, right? So if you don't know your time of birth, stick with the sun sign. And we'll start with Aries and we will finish with Pisces. And it's just going to be a brief mention of where this new moon is falling in your chart. But be mindful of the fact that it's best to look at your chart and see where it is, right? Because depending on the system that you use, depending on where your rising sign starts, depending on how big your houses are, multiple things, the placement can vary. So this is just a guide. So Aries, for you, this moon is in your 7th house. Libra is your 7th house. Extreme focus for you on relationships, right? On business partnerships, legal issues, and finding balance. The 7th house is also to do with finding balance. So a lot of emphasis on these areas for you. Now moving on to Taurus. Taurus, for you, this moon is falling in your 6th house. The 6th house is to do with matters related to health, your day-to-day routine, your eating habits, your exercise routine, that sort of thing. Now moving on to Gemini. Gemini, for you, this energy is in your 5th house of love, romance, creativity, children, hobbies, fun, and pleasure. Cancer, for you, this is to do with your 4th house. 4th house is your family. It's your deepest emotions. It could be a physical property as well. So a lot of focus on these areas with this new moon for you, Cancer. Leo, Libra is your 3rd house, so a lot of focus for you on your mind, on communicating, on social media, that sort of thing, Leo. Could be a lot of focus on your immediate environment as well, how you keep your furniture, how you keep your surroundings, that sort of thing. Virgo, for you, Libra is your 2nd house, a lot of focus on financial matters, a lot of focus on your appearances, your skills, what you value, that sort of thing. Libra, this one's important for you. It's to do with you, your identity, your appearance, how the world sees you, how you present yourself to the world, that sort of thing. Scorpio, this is in your 12th house. The 12th house is to do with closing out the past. It's to do with subconscious matters. It's the house of spirituality as well. So a lot of focus with this new moon in these areas for you. Sag, Libra is your 11th house, so a lot of focus on being social, a lot of focus on your hopes, goals and dreams with this new moon for you, Sag. Capricorn, Libra is your 10th house, so a lot of focus on your career, on your business, on your public image, that sort of thing. Aquarius, Libra is your 9th house, a lot of focus on your beliefs, on higher education, foreign travel, a trip can be on the cards. It's also the house of philosophy and wisdom, so a lot of focus on those areas as well. Pisces, Libra is your 8th house, so a lot of focus on intimate relationships, on transformation, on overall transformation. It's also the house of psychological matters, so a lot of focus on psychological matters as well. But the 8th house is generally the house of the hidden, so maybe something hidden coming to the surface, or a lot of focus on occults, things like that as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and now I will see you in my next video. Have a great day. Bye.